Okay, so officially, welcome everyone to the August Women's Podcaster Party. I'm so excited to see all of you. Some new faces, many very familiar faces. So, we will officially get started in just a second. We will go around, and because we have a larger group today, we're going to do a little less time. Everybody's going to get 30 seconds so that we have plenty of time for the networking and all of that. And I'm just getting the timer set up. And you can introduce yourself, tell us whatever you would like, share where you're from, what you do, if you have a podcast, if you're a guest, just so everybody gets to hear a little bit about everyone. We will do a couple breakout rooms today, so you will get some more time in small groups. But I always like to start by everybody, sharing and getting to know each other. And I see everybody already is talking in the chat, which I love. So, okay. Well, I know some of you, this is your first event, and welcome. As I mentioned, this is the Women's Podcaster Party. This is a networking event I created back in May of 2024. I was really trying to think, what do women in podcasting need? And one of the things at the time I didn't see a lot of was community, specifically, and I'm going to turn my bright light off, specifically for women in podcasting. There had been some great communities like She Podcasts, but at that time, those had kind of gone away or had changed. And so I created this specifically just to have a space for women to come to connect with others in the podcasting space, with people who want to get into podcasting, and ultimately to create a safe space for us to talk about things maybe we don't want to talk about in some larger rooms, but also a space for people to ask questions, because we all start off, not knowing a lot, and there's a lot to learn in the world of podcasting. So that is what this space is for. And hopefully you will make some great connections today. So I will go first, and then I'm just going to go around the Zoom room, and we'll have everybody do a quick introduction. After you introduce yourself, you are welcome to drop any links in the chat if you want to share your podcast, your website, whatever you would like. And then after that, we'll get into some other discussions. Okay, so most of you know me, but hi, I'm Julie Marty-Pearson. I'm a podcaster, speaker, and coach, and I help women own their voice, share their story, and grow their confidence and visibility through podcasting. I host this monthly networking event, and I also have a paid membership community where I do additional monthly events like group coaching. We have a live pitch fest every month for people to practice their pitch as a guest. Deep dive workshops. I bring in experts to talk about different topics. Last month we talked about Substack. A couple months ago we talked about Pinterest. I'm always trying to bring experts in to talk about some of the things that people are using a lot in podcasting. I have multiple podcasts, which I do not recommend. It is a lot of work, but I love podcasting, and I'm always coming up with new ideas. And so I will share my podcast in the chat. And I help people launch podcasts, grow existing podcasts, and become strategic, sought after guests. And this space really is for all of those different types of people, whether you're a host, guest, or both, to connect and find new collaborations and partnerships. All right, I'm going to go around the Zoom room, and right next to me is Marlene. You can go first.
Hello. Hi everyone, I'm Marlene.
I don't hear. Does everybody else hear her?
Okay.
So it must be my audio is off.
So you can hear me.
Yes, we're good. I'll restart your clock. Go ahead.
Cool. Very nice to meet you. So I'm Marlene. I am the podcast interview leverage method creator. I have the podcast conversion lab community on school platform. I go to podcasts myself, and I also represent around 15 speakers to go on podcasts. So I'm all about podcasts. Talk to me about podcasts.
Thank you. Great to have you again. Okay, next up I have Jen Davey.
I wasn't ready, but Jen Davey. I'm from Pottstown, PA, and I have been a guest on one podcast before. I just applied. I'll be recording my next podcast next Friday, as a guest. And I'm thinking of possibly starting a podcast with a friend. And what I do is I help. So right now I'm saying that I help women entrepreneurs with making sure that their online digital materials are usable, easy to use, and accurate.
Amazing. Very important stuff. We all need help with. Thank you, Jen. Okay, next up is Liz.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz. And if anyone has watched the movie Failure to Launch with Matthew McConaughey, that is me. I am the real life version, and I help parents launch the kids out of the house so they get off the payroll. And I help them with everything from career strategy, internships, gap years, college, non-college, you name it, marrying my 20 plus years in corporate recruiting. And I love being guests on podcasts.
I love that. That's such a great focus because yeah, I could and it took me a minute. I'm like, which Matthew McConaughey movie is that? And then as soon as you said get the kids out of the house, I'm like, right, I remember that one. Yeah, they hired Sarah Jessica Parker to get him out of the house. I remember that now. Thank you. Okay, next up in my Zoom room is Candace.
Hello, I'm Candace Strdardi coming to you from Muskegon, Michigan. I host interesting conversations for women business owners, and I am looking for a breast cancer survivor. I have one episode spot open for my October Breast Cancer Awareness Month thread on the Gratitude Geek podcast. I'll put the link in the show notes or in the description. Hey, did I do it before the walk-off music?
Yes, you did. Good job. And Candace also hosts a monthly networking mixer, so feel free to share the link for that in the chat, Candace. All right, next up is Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm a full-time novelist and speaker. I'm a podcast guest, usually speaking about how I accidentally wrote a novel, although I also have talked about books and homelessness and poverty and a few other subjects. I'm pretty well-rounded. I can talk about a lot of things, and I've been on a lot of different podcasts. I've also been on TV shows and radio as well.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, something shifted. I hate when things shift. Okay, let's see who is next. I've got Cheyenne. I may be saying that wrong, and I apologize.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Shanae Jackson. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico. I am a business strategist and operations consultant. I have a funny story to tell you that I was accidentally in Oaxaca for the last 2 years. My anniversary is on the 1st. I do have a podcast that's currently on hiatus. It's called Idea to Empire. I'm looking forward to bringing that back after my conference in October. I'm hosting a virtual conference in October that I'm really excited about, and I will make sure to put all of that in the details.
Amazing. Thank you so much. All right, next up in the Zoom room is Super Kate.
Hello, Super Kate here from the middle of Illinois. I have a podcast which is an extension of my business. My podcast is called Connecting with Super Kate, and I'm here to support those indispensable women, like probably every single person in this room, who are tired of being tired and are just don't want to get through it anymore. They want to do more. So that's what I do, and I'm just grateful to meet all of you.
Yay, thank you, Super Kate. Okay, next up is Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Mullen, and my business is a joyful studio where I help women in midlife increase their confidence and decrease their stress through art and music. And now, heart math. I just became certified in heart math last week. So I'm looking forward to be a guest on podcasts coming up in the future. And I will put my website in the chat. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Elizabeth. I got to meet Elizabeth in person last week. I was speaking for the Palo Alto chapter of the Polka Dot Powerhouse. And I just have to say, it reminded me how fun it is to actually get to see people in person. Working from home, doing everything online, it was a good reminder that sometimes we just need to be with people in person. So great to see you and have you. Okay, next up we have Kathy.
Perfect. Well, it's always wonderful to be here. I love this room of spunky ladies, and I specialize in creating multi-author books focused on giving women opportunities to become published authors without having to write the whole book. And then we also go to New York City and have billboards up in Times Square. So that is always a fun thing too. And I'm always looking to be on podcasts. Generally, I do about 6 podcasts a month, but always love jumping into new communities and looking for things specifically around midlife women, midlife books, all those things. Thank you.
Love that. So fun. Yeah, I always see people with billboards on Times Square and think that is just so cool. Okay, next up we have Jen. Oh, the other Jen. Now I realize there are 2 Jens.
We get around. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Espinosa Goswami, but you can just call me Jen Spingo because that's where you can find me online. And I'm a speaker coach. I am also the host of the Mic Drop Mindset podcast, where I help you deliver more mic drop moments and monetize the microphone through a combination of charging a speaking fee and or selling from the stage without feeling icky. I do have another opportunity for guests coming up on my podcast. I do record in studio, but we have a way to virtually Zoom you in. So if you're interested in that, I'm doing that in September. So feel free to connect with me.
Very cool. That's another thing I love seeing is people getting to do podcasts in person. I think that's so fun and such a different vibe. So sounds like fun. Okay. Who's next? Amy is next up.
That's me. My name's Amy. I'm the host of The Art of Imperfect Adulting, and I have guest opportunities for women who want to share their personal stories of transition and change. I also have this my new project, following Julie's idea of you must host a bunch of shows. It's called the Unmuted Creator Collective, and it has a directory opportunity and also a guesting opportunity if you are someone who has a show, audio podcast, YouTube, and you are looking for more visibility and growth. I'll put those in the notes.
Thank you. Yes. Check out Amy's podcast, but also join her directory. Even if you have any type of creative outlet, it's a great list to get added to. Okay, next up we have Leslie.
All right. Hey, everybody. Super excited to be here. Leslie Capps, and I help women get the words out of their head and write a book that they're known for. I also have a podcast, Powerful on Purpose, where we talk about books, but I also interview women who are using their stories to grow their business. And I personally love the leverage that we can do with podcasting and books.
Love that. Yes, I talk about that all the time. It is so important for people. And I always say a big part of podcasting growing is also audiobooks are so popular as well. It's that connection that someone choosing to put you in their ear, whether it's your book or your podcast, it's such a powerful connection. So happy to have you here. Okay, next up we have Connie.
My name is Connie Borden. I live near Denver, Colorado. I'm an acupuncturist and an author of a book called, Marlene, are you from Colorado? Okay. And so I wrote a book, and my new podcast, just out about a month ago, is an extension of my book, and it's called Mindful, Kindful Living. And so I'm just really wanting to put more compassion out to the world. I want to hear stories from people. So I would love to have guests, and I would love to guest on podcasts.
Yeah, and congrats, Connie. She just launched her podcast this month, so go give it a listen and a follow. She would greatly appreciate it. Okay, next up we have Shireen.
Hello, I am a corporate junkie turned entrepreneur. I spent 15 years at Amazon headquarters and Disney, and now I'm an internationally touring stand-up comedian, and I make my own line of THC edibles. And I'm looking to guest on health and wellness podcasts because I'm coming out with a new supplement brand specifically for women of color that I would love to talk about and share the story of why I'm doing that. And I'm in Orlando, Florida. Wow, I have 10 seconds left. I also have a one-woman show you guys should all come to because I toured all over the United States. It's called 1001 Red Flags.
Okay, now that sounds like fun. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's see. Next up in my room is Lauren. We don't hear you. I don't, at least. I think everybody else is shaking. Mm-mm. Zoom sometimes.
How's that?
There you go. There you are.
For some reason, this microphone, it doesn't work all the first time. Anywho, it's my first time here. Very excited to meet all of you. I am a leadership operations coach and consultant. I help female business owners stop being crushed under the weight of their business, learn how to finally lead it, and teach them the skills for that, and also help them with their systems and operations to make them more effective. I would love to be a guest on podcasts focused on women in business, specifically experienced women in business. I have been on over 15 podcasts at this point. I love doing it. Excited to be here.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, next up we have Jade.
Hi, my name is Jade. I am a career coach for job seekers in gaming. I'm the founder of Make the Grade with Jade, and I help people that are in gaming or creative industries articulate their value, their voice, and their vision by overcoming the sort of villains of their job search, like the cover letter crusher and the interview assassin. I've been on multiple podcasts, which you can find on my website. I have over 15,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I'm always looking to be a guest on places that, want to help people that are creative in creative industries. So yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. So happy to have you here. Okay, I think I got everybody. I'm going to take a minute. Did I miss anyone? Please raise a virtual or real hand if I missed you. Okay, good. I think I got everybody. I am going to share some of my upcoming events with everybody. Again, we do this every month, so the rest of this year dates for this networking are up on the link, as well as next week I'm doing my free workshop on how to launch a podcast. The week after we have our Pitch Fest. You can join that if you are a member of the community, or you can pay a small fee just to attend that event, and everybody gets 3 minutes to pitch themselves, and you get the clip of your pitch after, so you can post it on social, your website, whatever you like. And then I'm also doing another free workshop on guesting this month. Had a lot of asks for that again, so all those links are in the chat. I also wanted to mention, every month when we do our Pitch Fest inside the community, I share a list of active podcasts looking for guests. Some of you may already be on the list, but if you have a podcast and you are actively looking for guests, I just dropped the link to the form. Just fill that out and you get added to the list. I know Amy's already on it. I'm not sure. I don't know, Candace, if you're on it, but if you're not sure, or you've never filled it out, fill it out and give me all the info, and that will get shared with anybody who comes to Pitch Fest. And that way they know directly how to contact you or fill out a guest form, etc. Okay, so before we jump into our first breakout room, I want to take a picture while everyone's here. I know sometimes people have to leave early, so we're going to do this. And for those of you that are new, I do a picture every time. I then post it on social and I tag everyone. I find that's the easiest way for us to all connect on social. So I will give everybody a countdown and then grab a photo. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go. And I got it. My computer is very slow today. I guess I need to reboot. Not sure when I last did that. I don't know about you guys. You think, like, I haven't really shut this down in a while, so I probably should. Okay. So I was playing Dolly Parton at the beginning of the episode, and I think it's kind of hard not to talk about her this week with everything going on. I feel even more of a little bit of a connection because she passed on my birthday. Yes, my birthday was on Tuesday. It was not the best news to wake up to. I've been a huge fan of her my whole life. I actually got to see her in concert with Kenny Rogers back in the early 80s at the Mid-State Fair, which is here on the Central Coast of California. And, that stuck with me, my whole life. So, and I know everyone has a story, or everybody feels a connection for different reasons, but I wanted to play her and bring her up because I want our first breakout room to talk about legacy. I have spoken on and talked about how I have found podcasting to be a way of creating a legacy. I don't have human kids, I have fur kids, and my first podcast is all about pets. And that's kind of a legacy for me of sharing that and getting to meet other people and exploring the importance of helping animals. And also, I've talked some very personal parts of my own story from just the health issues I've had my whole life, things like that on my podcast. And I realized for me, there is a therapeutic process of sharing your story, right? And several people in the room also deal with authors and books, and that's another form of legacy. So I wanted to kind of bring that up as the first topic for the breakout rooms to ask you or have you guys discuss. How you think podcasting fits into this lens of leaving a legacy. Do you think that's real? Do you think you're like, oh, it's just podcasting, it's just my business? I just want you to have a little conversation around what does legacy mean to you, and how do you see podcasting being a part of the process of you, or you in the room with you, leaving that legacy. So I just kind of something to think about, and I am making sure there are 2 or 3 people in every room, it looks like. I'm going to hit recreate to make sure I saw somebody else come in. Okay, so we should be good, and I'm going to give everybody 6 minutes, so that way if you have 3 in the room, you each get 2, and then we'll come back and see what comes up from that, and then talk some other podcasting topics. Okay, rooms are open. Claim your spot. Welcome back. I'd love to hear if anyone has anything they want to share from their breakout room, talking about legacy and how podcasting might fit into that. Anyone have anything you want to? Yeah, Elizabeth, go ahead.
So I had the wonderful opportunity to talk with Super Kate and Candace. And the very last part was when Candace said, all 3 of us were thinking, legacy can be such a big, huge word. But it can just, if you think of it maybe on a different mindset, it could just be the smallest little act of kindness, because you are making that difference, that ripple effect. And then we were sharing examples and whatnot, but it was a wonderful, thank you for the prompt, and a great meeting, a great talk in the breakout room.
That's great. Yeah, it's so funny. A lot of the discussion that I've seen around Dolly's passing this week, of course, is the movies, the songs, just all of that. But it's also her kindness and how much she did for other people, how she actively chose not to become a billionaire, but to use her money and her place to help others, especially in the town she grew up in and the state she's from. And, a lot of people, I even said this in a post I made, it's like just a reminder that even though a lot of people, of course, know her for that, so many of the posts were about the kindness, the way she's helped people, the way she's connected people or done things. And yeah, like we can be kind every day. It's holding the door open for someone or buying a coffee for the person in line behind you, right? There's so many little things that we can do. And I think it's also important to think about it in terms of business. How do you want to be known as a business person, or as an entrepreneur, as a podcaster? And, this networking event is an example of that. I've thought about, putting it under a paywall or doing different things, but this really is a space for people to come together and connect. And that shouldn't have to be, about money and all of that. And I just think there's so many little ways that we can do that. And so I love that you guys talked about that. Liz, yeah, what did you want to share?
I just, this is my first time, and already this has been a really good experience. I have really enjoyed just all of this. And I was in a room with Sandy and I'm so sorry. I swear to God, menopause. Who else was there? There was someone else. Who was with me and Sandy?
Somebody left and came back and left, so it may have been somebody that left the Zoom room. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm bummed that she's not here, but we talked about just how we all are on the same page about how important it is to do a podcast or be a guest. Like I don't have an interest on doing my own, but
Right.
I've been on a lot of other people's podcasts and I want to continue to do that because I think it's so important. Everyone wants to hear something.
Right.
And that is really something that I've learned is like we all have something to share and we all want to hear and learn and get ideas and be like, oh, aha. So, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
that's anyway, it was wonderful. I mean,
Yay.
it was a great room.
Love it. So happy to hear. But yeah, and this is what I always say. Yes, I help people launch podcasts, but I always admit I am not a podcast pusher. Not everybody has to have one. But as an entrepreneur, in whatever capacity you do it, you should be using podcasting in some way. Is that guesting? Is that collaborating? Is it being a sponsor? I actually had a podcast that I've sent lots of guests to, and they were so grateful they let me be a sponsor of their podcast for a month without me having to pay for it. So there's little things that you can do that help you in your business that doesn't have to be about money or even about you being the one that's the guest, right? There's so many ways you can collaborate. You can do collaborative events, you can be a sponsor, whatever it is. So I'm so glad you said that because it's important for people to hear you don't have to have a podcast. But podcasting continues to grow. It's not going anywhere. And it's such a great tool for marketing as a business owner that it's learning how best to use it for you and what you do. And I love that. I love the little image that Marlene dropped in there. Yeah, I mean, I also think people, there's so many podcasts, I don't need to make one. It's like, yeah, but there's no you. That's the thing about podcasting. We all get to do it exactly how we want to do it, whatever that looks like. And it can change. I'm going to be indefinitely pausing my pet podcast after 4.5 years because I don't have the drive and the motivation to do it like I did. And also, unfortunately, in the last 5 months, I've lost 2 of my cats. And I find it very hard to talk about pets right now. And so I know for me, it's a time to just put it aside. It can still live and grow. People are listening and discovering it every day, and that's great. But it's also, we don't have to stick with what we're doing. We can change our mind. We can evolve. We can do new projects. And so I think that's when I think about legacy is what does that mean for you? And it can change. And it can be little things. It can be, I have people who've written books this year, and that was something they always wanted to do. So it's also thinking about what your dreams are and how that can come to life for you within the spheres what you do in your business. So one thing I also thought about is, as most of you probably heard, we also lost Tim Curry this week, who Clue is my favorite movie of all time. And if you don't know what that is and haven't watched it, go watch it because literally as a kid, I had a friend, whenever we spent the night at each other's house, we watched Clue. It was our favorite. And I happened to watch it the other night before he passed. And it's like this lasting impression, this idea of movies, songs, all these things that bring back memories of childhood or concerts or whatever, when you met your spouse. There's so many different ways that movies and music kind of play a role in our memories. And what it made me, thank you. Wadsworth, he's the best. I'll probably have to watch it again this weekend. Thinking about you as a host, as a guest, how can you leave a lasting impression with the people who are listening to or watching the podcast? And I will admit this is something that I've had to work on. So for those of you that don't know, before COVID, I spent 20 years working in higher education. So I used to teach psychology and statistics. I worked in assessment and research, wrote a lot of papers and reports. And so I used to speak all the time. I was a teacher. I spoke at conferences. But coming into the world of entrepreneurship and being a speaker and a podcaster is different because a lot of what I talk about is myself now. I didn't really talk about myself a lot in those roles. So what I've had to learn is how do you weave your own personal stories and experiences into what you do as an entrepreneur, into podcasting, into guesting, into speaking. And so thinking about Dolly and Tim and all these people that have this lasting impression just by hearing their name, how can we as hosts and guests leave a lasting impression? So that is the question I'm going to leave with you guys to do your second breakout room. and I'm going to recreate those, and hopefully they shifted people. And I'm going to give same amount of time so everybody can go around and talk about this. And if you haven't, or you're new to guesting, it's okay if you don't have an answer, but think about what would you ask someone about how to do this, and maybe the people in the room can answer that for you. So leaving a lasting impression as a host and guest, what does that mean to you, and what does that look like? So let's jump back into the breakout rooms. You guys have the discussion, and we'll bring it back out for everybody. Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Let's see. There we go. Welcome back. All right. So anybody want to share anything from their conversation in the breakout room?
I think that sorry, I think that Shireen didn't get to finish her thought even because time was off. I would like to hear her thought.
Oh, I was just saying, I think one of the things, I forget how the question was framed, but as a podcast host and a guest, I think it's really important to be transparent. So when the questions are asked, not to hide things. Like if the question is, how did you become a comedian? Like what opened the door for you? Just tell people, because the more you give out for free, the more people will want to follow you and then have you back and buy your services.
Yeah.
And I was also I was in the room with Marlene and Shireen, and one of the things that Shireen said that I think is really spot on is that for her as a comedian, thinking about her impression that she's leaving people is so important, because she said the industry of comedy has changed. And I would extend that to be all of media and entertainment. Like our impression matters a lot, because that's what brings people to our visibility. Today it's social media. Tomorrow I don't know where it'll be, but that's the thing that is I don't know, the glue, the glitter, whatever, it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such an important point, because our impression can be in 10 different places, even beyond the podcast, right? Even as a guest, yeah, you can leave an impression, but then people are going to go search you and go to social and go to places. And so it is thinking about how is your impression across platforms, even though, yes, of course, when you're guesting or hosting, it's what you're saying and the stories you're telling, but it's much more expansive. Like, as a kid, I loved Clue, and I knew Tim Curry was in it, but I didn't know anything about him. I didn't have social media. We didn't really have Google. Yes, that was the 80s. And so, but now even actors, they have to think about their impression everywhere, because it's not just the movie or the song that comes out. It's social. It's, just the news. And even in podcasting, I saw a clip yesterday about the top true crime podcast. I think it's it's number 2 top podcast of all podcasts. And there was a video about some of the questionable things happening behind the scenes of that podcast, and how they get their stories and how they do their research and the turnover and employment. And so it made you just realize that, yes, this is one of the most popular podcasts in the world. She's been building it for years, but now there's little rumblings coming out about the business of her podcast and what's going on, and how she gets stories and maybe sometimes takes stories as her own when they're not, etc. And so that made me think about, like, our impression just isn't just the episode. It's all the other stuff, all the other places they can learn about us and get feedback and hear stories about us. And so that's, important to think about as a guest. How do you show up? Are you showing up on time and prepared and ready to go as a host? But it's also how we share our story. And I love that you guys talked about honesty, because the thing is, people are going to figure it out. You can feel if something doesn't feel right, and there's a hole in that story. Something isn't there, right? And I feel that way too, just when people are so salesy on social media. It's like, yeah, AI can help, but it can't build your business for you, right? There's all these things that are quick fixes. And so it's important to think about that as a guest and a host. Like, how are you putting forth the information you're sharing with people? Anyone else have something else they want to share from their breakout room?
So wait, is that Ashley Flowers from Crime Junkie? Is that what you were talking about, Julie?
Yes.
Because I need the tea. Sorry to interrupt, but I gotta go and find the tea. Okay, back
So
to your normal programming.
I have so it's Crime Junkie is the show. It is literally the top right under Joe Rogan is where she is. She's been doing it for like 6 or 7 years. And it came across my feed because I follow a couple true crime people. I had one of them, Madison McGee, on my podcast. And it was interesting because she made a comment about it and then posted it. And I was like, ooh, so there's way more to this story than just this reel, right? But it also got me thinking about, like, yeah, we want people to talk about our podcast, but we don't want them to talk about them this way, right? We don't want this kind of stuff circulating, questioning our ethics or how we come to the content we're sharing. So, yeah, it is that impression isn't just the podcast, but it probably is really important in your podcast because people aren't going to go look at the other places if you're not connecting and giving them. The other thing you said, guys, was value. I mean, that really is what podcasts are about. We're providing value with these podcasts, right? And us providing value, whether as a host or a guest, is because we want them to see us as an expert and then want to come and get more from us, whether it's an event or our services. So that's also part of the impression, right? We want people to say, hey, she knows what she's talking about. I'm going to check her out. Anybody else have anything they wanted to share from the impression side? Ooh, I like that. Booked is not built. I like that. Yeah, and I think that's important because I've interviewed a lot of people across on my podcast, and not everybody's a great guest, and it doesn't mean they can't be. But you got to practice. You got to get feedback. You got to, even as a speaker, last week I was like, please give me your feedback. What did you like? What would you have liked me to elaborate on? Things like that. So yeah, all of that is so important. Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I'm going to drop in the chat again the events I shared earlier because I know we had some people come in and out. So there's the link if you want to sign up for other networking events as well as some of my other events. And one question I want to kind of ask the whole group, and anybody can raise their hand, is right now I'm thinking about the fall and thinking about these events. Sometimes I have speakers here. Sometimes we do a certain topic to kind of talk about at each event. I also bring in speakers into my membership. So I want to ask all of you, what currently do you see as the biggest hurdle or challenge you face in podcasting? Whether that be as a host, as a guest, is it getting started? Is it growing? Is there some tool you want to learn about? Is there some process you see someone else doing that you want to do yourself? So I'm going to give you guys all a little time to process that, and then I'd love to hear if there's anything you would like to share. I see Lauren say, when I had a pod was getting listeners. Yeah, I think that's one for all of us. So yeah, marketing is something I'm looking at. So if there's anything specific around visibility and marketing someone wants to ask, let me know. Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
So I focus on accessibility. So that's making sure that people with different learning styles or with disabilities can actually engage, like hear, listen, read, or hear and listen are the same. Read, see, and also touch what is being said. And a lot of times I go to look at podcasts, and because since my sixth concussion, I now need to have something visual something to look at as well as audible. So I can't just sit and listen to a podcast if there's no transcript or no closed captions. And so trying to understand podcast platforms that have that as an option would definitely be something that I think would be beneficial for everybody, because that's one way we could all get more clients.
Yep. Yeah, that's such an important piece, and it's important for everyone to hear because you want to make sure, if you're a host, that your transcripts are showing up and being added every episode you upload, because without the transcripts, anyone with disabilities isn't going to be able to access it the way they should. So transcripts is the first one. The next one, as you said, was captions. Now we can upload video to more and more places now. You can now do it not just to YouTube, but Spotify, Apple. I'm sure that's going to continue to expand. So even though each platform may have its own caption options, it's always better to add it yourself before you upload it, because then you know for sure it's going to be there. Because I know sometimes when I upload like the recording from these events, I don't always put them into script and add captions, so then I have to do it through YouTube, which can be harder. So yeah, that's such an important topic. Thank you for mentioning that. The other Jen, yes, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I guess I should lower my hand now. So for me, being relatively new to hosting, just understanding what are the most important analytics for your pod. Is it the downloads? Is it the who's watching from where or how long? And honestly, engagement is an interesting one for me. When you come from social, you're like, oh, people are liking it, they're commenting on it, they're sharing it, they're reposting it. What does engagement, like good engagement for a pod look like? And like I'll say on my episodes, comment below or leave it or share this episode, but nothing seems to be gaining traction. So I don't really know if there's tools for that, if there's a way to understand what people are doing with that content.
No, that is a great question. It's definitely something we talk about a lot in hosting. I would say the first thing, it depends on who is your podcast host, what hosting platform you use. I will say they are not all the same. I have been on and tested out Buzzsprout, RSS.com, Riverside, Megaphone, and they all do it differently. So that is the hard thing, is like I can't compare my podcast on RSS.com to Buzzsprout because the analytics show up slightly differently, and some of them give you more than others. For videos, YouTube is the best because it'll show you not only views, it will show you engagement. They'll show you how many people are listening to the whole thing and where do people drop off. Some of the hosting platforms do that. I'm sure it'll change some because they're going to have to update analytics when we're uploading video, which hasn't been done through podcast hosts before this year. So some of it definitely depends on what platform you're on. But this is an important topic. I'm actually doing a workshop on this inside my membership, but it's something that we can talk about more here as well. Because yeah, analytics and even just the terminology, downloads, we all hear that a lot, right? But what does that mean? And it actually means something different depending on where people are listening. Sometimes Apple has a different definition of how long someone has to listen before they count it as a download, or you physically hit the download button and it downloads to your phone or device. So it is a lot of terminology, and so thank you for bringing that up because it's been on my radar, but we can definitely talk about it in one of these events as well.
And then the rumor of do pod transcripts get searchable through AI or not? I'm not sure. There's a rumor that it might.
They do.
Sometimes they do. Depends on the platform, and it depends on where it is. One thing that I was going to add to Julie that she added when it comes to accessibility for Jen is that for accessibility, if you burn it into the video so everybody will see it, it's not going to be read by AI. It also needs the text document, the SRT, to be uploaded to the platform so that it can be pulled in and extrapolated by crawlers and things like that. Accessibility from new media is a huge thing. I'm not an expert on it, like at all. I would say that over the next whatever time frame, insert your thing, things will change because it's one of those things that like I love texting. That's an adaptive technology that came from people who had a disability and never knew that. Never knew that. Love it. Happy it's there. Yeah. Same with like the doors that open automatically. Love that. Love that.
I know some people are having to jump off, so thank you so much for being here. Let's see. I'm just looking at... Okay, do you make a blog post to LinkedIn and to your website about each episode? Yes, that is something I have not done it for every episode, but I'm working on going backwards. And I've been doing a series in my membership about taking an episode and creating Substack, LinkedIn, blog post, all the pieces from it. And I've actually been using some of my old episodes to, walk through that process because it is hard to come up with new content every week, but also be purposeful about what the content is. So like this week, I've been talking about networking on all my platforms because I had my networking event. So yeah, creating that content is definitely so that Thank you, Jen. So we can also talk about the repurposing here. That I think that accessibility and analytics would give us a couple good topics, whether we have speakers or it's just a conversation around them. And Jen, I'll also say this: the hard part with analytics is we get them in different places. So if I go to my host, I see the downloads for my audio podcast. If I go to YouTube, I see downloads and views for video, and there's no like way to put them all together, right? And so a lot of times when you hear numbers or downloads from people, it's like, well, where is that from? Is it just audio, video? And now there's more going to be more convolution. And yeah, it's hard, but it's also understanding the numbers and what it tells you. And that's definitely something we can talk about. Yeah, and they also change. Like YouTube just switched. And that's the other part. It's like no one could possibly keep up with it because every platform is different and it changes. So the biggest thing I will say for guests and hosts is being thoughtful about the words, whether it's you creating the title and the description or you as a guest, like what are the words that you want your voice to say so that it is searchable and that they're finding you based on those keywords, which is a little harder. But it's also just being purposeful about what you're talking about, what you're sharing, and of course, making sure what you're sharing is evergreen and not a dated event, because then you want people to find it no matter when they find that, whenever they find your episode. Okay, I'm just scanning. Any other questions that I missed or comments? Yeah, that's a great question. I just see some people talking about guests. And we could talk about this from both the guest perspective and the host. I think it's probably one of the more challenging things for hosts to know whether their guests have shared the episode. I will also say as a guest, I have had episodes come out where I was never sent anything to tell me that my episode was out. So there's challenges on both sides of the mic, right? And so how can you show up as the best guest possible, and how can you show up as the best host possible? And so that's definitely a good topic to bring out. Any other comments, questions before I know we've gone over. Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for being here. I know there are so many things going on all the time, so I appreciate you showing up and choosing to spend your time with us. We will have another event in September. What? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think we should just take a moment to congratulate Amy on her new grandbaby.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Most people probably didn't know, but yeah, I have a new. She's 8 weeks old, but I was Candace and I, know each other in like real life. So she was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Stop bugging me. I'm meeting my grandbaby."
Well, congrats. That's a big
Thank
deal.
you.
It's a big deal.
Congrats. But also, in saying that, I have to say, Candace, congratulations. She won 2 awards for her podcast this month through I'm just totally losing the name of the network.
The marketing podcast marketing network, MPN.
Yes, MPN. Thank you. I had the MPN, but I couldn't think of the words. So congrats.
You do such
Very
a good
well
job
deserved.
running this. I'm sure your brain is fried at the end. You do an excellent
It
job.
always is a little bit, and I'm still recovering from whatever this gunk is I've been fighting. So brain isn't always solid. But congrats, Candace. She's had her podcast for a long time, so you very much well deserve that. And it also
It took me 12 years to become an overnight success.
Hey, however it happens, we're happy. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm so happy to have you, and I hope to see you next month. And if you think of something after the fact, like, oh, I would love to learn about this, or I'd love to ask you, feel free to, reach out. I will also drop my connection link in the chat if anybody wants to just discuss anything. I'll drop that, and you will get an email tomorrow with the recording and all the links we shared as well. You can rewatch on YouTube, but feel free to share this event if you know somebody that would enjoy coming to the event and learning or sharing something about them. I appreciate it greatly. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for showing up, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and week.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.